Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Joining me today is Lieutenant General Harimohan Iyer. We're going to take a look at what happened in 2020 in Ladakh and, of course, by extension, Galwan. Let's welcome Lieutenant General Harimohan Iyer. General Iyer, Namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel, sir. How are you?
Namaskaram. Thank you very much for getting me on your show. Always a pleasure to speak on your program. I hope I'm audible.
Yes. You're doing fine, sir. Everything is going good. Viewers, a small request to all of you to please like this video. There are a few joining in, but soon you'll have a lot of people. I'm going to put the question to you, General Harimohan Iyer. I think April 17th is when the actual incursion happened of China, and or they were poised to do it. So a lot of things happened. I've even written stories. I wrote a pretty hard-hitting story in June 2020 in pgurus.com, and there was a video of that one that I released in the morning. It's done well, but that's got nothing to do with the army itself. It was something to do with how the bureaucracy was slow to respond, because May 17th is when we really went back and started almost a month later. So let me just set the thing. You take us back to whenever, sir. April 17th was what my suggestion was, but this doesn't happen in a day. There will be signs that things are happening. So you can go back in time wherever would be suitable, then walk us through what happened. You also have a PowerPoint presentation. So I yield the floor to you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you. Why April 2020? I will go back to maybe September of 2019. Now, why am I saying this? In September of 2019, the Indian Army conducted an offensive exercise in Ladakh. It was a Northern Command exercise in which the Northern Command Reserve Division carried out training on an offensive maneuver in Ladakh. And why I brought this up? Because this was the signing off of General Y.K. Joshi as a Corps Commander. After this exercise, he quit his job as the Corps Commander and was posted as Chief of Staff, Northern Command, which I had the honor to be following him to that chair a little later. But he came to Northern Command as the number 2 man 3 to 4 months before getting promoted to be the Army Commander of Northern Command. Now, General Y.K. Joshi, in his entire career, has held command appointments in almost every rank in Ladakh. We all know his achievements during Op Vijay, when he commanded his battalion in Kargil. Thereafter, as a brigade commander, he was the brigade commander of the Chushul Brigade. Then he was the general officer commanding of the division, the Ladakh division. And of course, he thereafter became the Corps Commander. So, from tactical to operational level, right across the entire spectrum of operations in Northern Command. And in addition to all this, you must also know that General Joshi had been an assistant DA in China. So he's done that job also, and he knows Mandarin, he can speak in Mandarin also. So when I looked at November 2019, there couldn't have been anybody better to have been sitting in that chair who knew both our northern and western adversaries well. You know, his conduct during the Op Vijay is all testimonial. We all know about it. And thereafter, whatever he has done in the Chinese front is also there. And I was at that time posted as the Major General in charge of operational logistics. And when General Joshi joined me, I had spent almost 2 years, 1 year and 8 months plus, which generally is a tenure of a Major General in that appointment. So I was looking possibly for an exit when General Joshi joined me. And thereafter, when the change of command happened and my posting didn't come, General Joshi requested me to stay on, because operational logistics was a very important aspect, and he wanted me to stay on. And also, it was the time when the pandemic hit us. And I want to put you and your viewers through this picture. You see, the Ladakh area is accessible by road for about 8 months in a year, from somewhere around April till late October. And thereafter, the road access to Ladakh gets closed. It is also the time when all the passes, across the Himalayas have heavy snowfall, and possibility of any, mischief by either our northern or our western adversary is minimal. So it is that period of time when large amount of administrative related, activities happen in units. To put it straight, most commanding officers would like to send maximum people on leave during this period of time because their requirements and operational requirements are comparatively lesser. Because you can't patrol the area because it's very cold and full of snow and not accessible, etc., etc. But for those posts which have to be held, by and large, it is the period when maximum people go on leave. So the same happened in 2019. And when the pandemic hit in 2020, that was generally the time. Am I there? Just a minute. Yeah. When the pandemic hit in 2020, it was the time when maximum people were out on leave. And you all know when lockdown happened on 23rd of March, all communications in India came to a halt. So you can roughly take 33% of troops of the corps who would have otherwise been able to come back to Chandigarh, Delhi or Jammu by train and be airlifted from there to Ladakh were all stuck up at various places. All right. So we were working on a very difficult period of time in the month of February, March. Incidentally, the first positive case of COVID was also detected in Ladakh when a Maulvi who was returning from Iran died in the Kargil district and was thereafter tested to be COVID positive. So it was very essential for us to keep our troops sanitized from COVID, because we couldn't afford to have COVID infection in our remote areas, because as it is, we were shoestrung in terms of health support. The area is too vast and the posts are too far away, and therefore we had to be absolutely clear that we should not have any COVID infection in our troops. At the same time, as Army, we were expected to also help the civil administration deal with the COVID pandemic. So please understand what was happening in the month of January, February and March. The focus had shifted from live operations towards pandemic management. And a bigger problem for a person like me was, how the hell do I get those 15,000 odd troops which are in their various home stations back to their posts? Big problem. The next issue, Ladakh being in high altitude, the tenure for any battalion in Ladakh or any unit in Ladakh is for 24 months. So every 24 months, there is a rotation of troops. That means every 12 months, a new set of troops gets rotated, or 50% of troops generally gets rotated every year. Now, this rotation can also happen in the month of April to September only. Okay, and everybody can't be changed simultaneously because they will create lack of continuity. So it has to be timed beautifully so that the adversary doesn't know how the troops get turned over. And for a troop movement, let's say happening from a unit which is located, for example, in Chennai, and if it has to be moved to relieve a unit which is located in Ladakh, imagine the kind of logistics that are involved. And that is also under pandemic period. The third issue is we have a deployment in the Siachen Glacier where the turnover has to happen every 6 months. So it's a peculiar thing. Every 6 months you have to turn over. Otherwise the person cannot stay there. Which means the next set of people should be ready to be inducted. So there's a kind of a cycle which keeps going on. And we have something we call as loop battalions, which are dual task battalions which have an operational role in their China border and also do a tenure in the Siachen while they are in Ladakh. So they spend about 6 months in base camp to do 6 months on the post in Siachen, and the balance of 1 year they do as part of a formation in Ladakh. So I put a larger picture to you. You have troops which have to be inducted into Siachen. You have troops which have to be pulled out of Siachen. You have to bring leave parties which are all over the countryside. You have to bring in those troops which are supposed to relieve all this. And all this has to happen in that window when the road opens, and the road generally opens in the end of April. Okay. So that kind, and also look at civic Adam or civil Adam in terms of COVID management. So these were all these things were happening. Now, it's not that we were blind. So the troops opposite us in the northern theatre are something called border defense regiments, which are similar to our Indo-Tibetan border police. They are paramilitary kind of troops. They are sourced from local areas. So there are 3 regiments which are opposite Ladakh, which are sourced from the Xinjiang military region. Similarly, there are 3 regiments opposite Eastern Theatre, which are sourced from Tibetan military regiment. A regiment means equivalent to a brigade of Indian Army. So about 9 battalions worth of what they call as border defense regiments. They are the ones which hold the border. They are the ones who are visible. Then the Chinese army has their second rung of troops, which are again, some are stationed inside Xinjiang and Tibet. And then there are some which come from hinterland. So there are 4 divisions which are located in the Xinjiang district. 4 divisions. Namely 6 and 4, 8 and 11. So these are 4 divisions, and they also keep coming and doing their rehearsals and exercises every year. So this particular year, we had some elements of 6th division and some elements of 4th division, which were exercising in the area north of the, what we call as the highway going to Kashgar. GW 219. It was operating in a place called Zaidullah, north of the road, and it was under, it is somewhere here. Somewhere here. Okay. Yeah. So you can take this up. I'll come
This is
back.
maximum, sir. Yeah.
And so they were in that area of Zaidullah, and we were keeping a track of it, like they also keep a track. Normally what happens is after the exercise, they come to the highway, wait for their transport, and then in small pieces, they go back to their own location. This has been happening every year. Year on year, it happens. But this particular year, something strange happened, that portion of the troops went back. Portion of the troops stayed where they were in the exercise area, and portion of the troops started moving westwards. That's when the alarm bell started ringing, and we started checking as to what is happening. Because, Depsang and Chumar has actually enlightened us that, you can't trust these guys. But like I said, access to these areas at that time, because of the weather and the snow conditions, are very difficult. So we were also dependent on aerial photographs, satellite photographs, and some degree of RPM missions, if at all they were successful. But it's not that we were not keeping a track of them; we were keeping a track of them. Okay, so to say that we were blinded, no, we were not blinded. We were not blinded. The second thing is, now I think you can put this slide.
Yeah, we'll go full screen on this map, sir. But people can, our viewers can hear you and I. Like for example, because this is a little tight, so you can still talk and everybody can hear you, sir.
Okay. I deliberately put these two maps together. The left map is a CIA released map. It's available on the net. It gives out the Chinese vision of the line of control, or their claim line, as they say. So if you see this dotted line, which is moving from northwest of Kazilzilga, coming down to Kongala, and then going down to Kurnak port, and then going down out of Ladakh. So this used to be their claim line in the 1958. This is something which their premier, I'll call you later. I'm on a podcast. Yeah. So this is the line which was there in 1956. Then in 1960, they brought out this second line, which is further to the west of the Galwan Nala. See the difference? It cuts through the Pangong Tso in the center, west of Sirija. Thereafter, it follows a line almost similar to the dotted line and then goes further west here. So these are two known claim lines of the Chinese. But are they the claim lines is something we don't know. So in our own mind, we call something called the line of actual control, which is what we claim to be the area between us and them. We also know of a line which we say it as the perceived line of actual control, as the Chinese possibly are perceiving the same line of control. Now the difference between these two lines is a gray area which over a period of time both India and China has maintained as something that needs to be resolved. And therefore this whole area of Ladakh has been divided into 65 patrolling points as far as India is concerned, starting from somewhere in what we call as Karakoram Pass over here on the right map, and keeps going down, right down to Chipsy, which is somewhere here, where 65th patrolling point comes. Now these points have been picked off the map. There is no specific feature or point over there. There are places where we go and assert that this is generally the line which we seek as a line of actual control. Now we can't send 65 patrols at the same time. They are long patrols, it takes times. So there is a patrolling program which is worked out, and in regular intervals all these patrolling points are visited. Similarly, Chinese also follow something similar, and they also visit their respective points which align to their claim line of control. So when you see these, there will be areas where both Indian and Chinese troops transit, and that is the area where face-offs happen. So when the Chinese troops enter that, we put it out as a walk-in, and when two patrols clash in between, it is called a face-off. So, yeah. So when you look at the overall structure, what you see in red from the north to the south, this is the general area of Aksai Chin. All this has been captured by China in the 60s. It's been with them all through. And they have still not declared that this is their end of the claim line. So there is a gap, and until and unless this whole thing gets cleared as an international boundary, this kind of a problem will persist. Now, if you look at the map on the right side, it indicates the areas where there is either dispute or what we are now started calling as a friction point. So on the top, 14 refers to Depsang. Go further south, 9 refers to Galwan. Go further south, 1, 2, and 10 generally refers to PP15 to Gogra and Hot Springs. 3 and 4 refers to Pangongso north and south. 5 and 6 refers to Rechenla, Rizangla. 8 refers to Demchok. And 7 refers to Chumar. All these areas across the period of time, we have had face-offs with the Chinese. There have been times when they have come there. There have been times when there have been clashes. There have been times when they have come and occupied a place of ground for a period of time. And then by conducting various level of meetings, border meetings with their commanders and our commanders, these things have been amicably solved. It does not mean that the problem has been taken away. The problem persists because there is no clear line and it is not clearly demarcated. So anybody who is not able to understand there is no fence line here, there is no border pillar here to indicate that this is India and this is China, there is no way you can decide whether you are inside India or inside China. So there could be a possibility of a patrol even by mistake transiting into your area. And the same thing could happen with your patrol transiting into the enemy area. Yeah, you can take the slides out, please. Thank you. Yeah. So by and large, what I wanted to put across in these 2 slides is things are very fluid. To think and say, how did we not check this, sir? These things have been happening. A patrol strength of 40 would have come somewhere, stayed for a day or 2 and gone back. Now you can't do jungle bashing every time a thing of this nature happens, right? So 2 things I was putting across. One, a big force which should have gone back, which is classified as an offensive force, was identified to have shifted westwards and was under observation. They were being followed. So where they had been parked had been followed. And all these patrolling which is being done is generally done by their border defense regiments like their ITBP of ours. And they keep coming in and out. And I will throw one more spanner into the wheel. In November, December 2019, there were state elections in, I think, Bihar and Jharkhand, if I'm not wrong. One of these, states. And since paramilitary forces have to be applied there, some ITBP was moved out of Ladakh and taken to these states for conduct of elections. And post conduct of election, the ITBP was also on its way to come back when pandemic struck, and they also got stuck en route. So जिसे कहते हैं spilt milk के ऊपर मक्खी गिरना, so something like that. So we were pained for resources in the month of April. And the first thing which came out loud and clear was, can you put the slide again, please? I think. Just a minute, not this one. Yeah. If you see this road, it is called DSDBO, Darbuk Shok DBO Road. Now this road is very peculiar because it runs almost parallel to the line of actual control and it connects the central sector to the northern sector. And it is capable of heavy vehicle movement. All the nalas have bridges. This road was, never getting constructed despite it being in the making since I think 2007. But we had a big push which was given in 2018-19, and by and large by end of 2019 or early part of 2020, most of this road had already got constructed. Now you look at Galwan, This road is so close to the PP or our perceived line of actual control. Between the road and this is just the Shok River which is flowing, and the Galwan Nala joins here. Further north, if you see Naki
You're talking
Nala,
about PP14, right?
Exactly.
General Iyer, you're talking about PP14.
Yeah, you can see the cursor moving
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Go up north, you see Burse, Raki Nala. This area again, this comes very close. Right? Now,
Right.
PPs 10, 11, 12, and 13, they are located in the area which is in the Depsang. The only way to reach this is through this place called Y Junction, or what we also call as bottleneck. So the first thing we realized was they had come and blocked this. So access to 10 to 12, 13 got stalled. So either you have to force your way through, which will involve, breaking the protocol, or you have to keep requesting them to withdraw from here. This was one action which got caught. And the second was in the areas of fingers. If you recollected, I think go back to the earlier slide. You see this claim line, it cuts the Pangong Tso in the center.
Right.
It generally cuts in the area of fingers 4 and 5.
Right.
Though the known line is somewhere here next to Sirijap. Actually, the LAC should have run somewhere here where Kurnak Fort is. But this area was captured by them in 1962 and they are holding on to it. So, by and large, they were west of this area of Sirijap or finger 8. But in this period, we saw them moving into these areas of finger 4, which they have been doing in the past also, because they also do patrolling to so-called claim line and they go back. But this time, they came and started holding on to places over here. Okay. And then in the area of PP15, 17 alpha and 17, they were minor incursions, but then they were well south of the PPs and they were told to go back, which they resisted. In the area of Galwan, they had come and set up a post which was overlooking the road, well inside our area. Well means it's about a kilometer or two inside our area. And we had objected to it, asked them to move back. So this was the kind of situation we were in the month of end April, I'll say, beginning of May. Okay, you can yeah. So this one, if you look at it, this is the area where what you see in green was the area where the face-off happened in 2013, Depsang. And this arrows which you see, the blue arrows, this is a Chinese slide. I could get it out of a Chinese site. But these blue arrows are the patrolling routes of the Indian Armed Forces. So this is PP13, this is PP12, 11 alpha and 11. So all these patrols have to cross this area which they conveniently blocked. So this whole area where we used to dominate went out of our capacity. The same thing has been reflected on the blow up onto the right hand side. Imagine this is the area they had to go. Okay, I think you can take off the PowerPoint. So when we came to know that there is trouble, what did we do? Within the corps, they had their loop battalions available to them. They had a reserve brigade, which is a fair number of troops. With whatever number of troops were available, the division and the corps started mirroring our posture opposite the Chinese. So if they had 30 people, we also occupied the posts immediately opposite them with the similar force levels. This was done almost immediately and was vehemently opposed by the Chinese. So large number of border meetings happened at lower levels, but there was no resolve. All this while that force which had come down from the north was continuously reaching. They had now shifted west of the highway and were in some areas about 40-50 kilometers east of the line of control, both in the areas accessible to Depsang and Galwan. You see, these are narrow accesses, and you can't have too many vehicles and you can't hide them. So they are all visible to satellite imagery and aerial photographs. So we had knowledge of them. Next, what we did, we ensured that we had some 3 brigades which were reserve brigades of the command. So each reserve brigade dropped 1 battalion, and these forces were shifted. And imagine this is the time when there is no road. The road is still not open. So first thing we did was we force opened the road in Jozila. After force opening the road, we shifted these battalions, which was a very decent force. It was more like a division size force, which moved in and started occupying areas which were in the rear as reserves. We didn't stop there. There was sometimes, good things happen with a reason. Bad things happen with a reason. In 2019, when this division was exercising in Ladakh, the winters came in early. And before this division could be extricated, the roads closed. So the heavy equipment of the division, unfortunately, had to be left behind with a little body of troops. The rest of the troops were pulled out by air, but then all the heavy equipment and guns, etc., they were still in location. So we were able to speedily induct this division back by air. And their equipment was already there. So despite no road being available, they had transport, they had equipment, which was on the other side of the road. And therefore they were mobile. So now we had almost 2 divisions worth of force capable to counter whatever our friend had been able to move. And this is the time he panicked, because he had moved only 1/3, whereas we had already mirrored almost twice the amount of force opposite him. So we were at that position capable of not only blunting him, but taking the battle into his territory. Think of a guy sitting across when he sees all these kind of forces coming in. So that was the month of June, when we went across, highlighted to him that we need to resolve this. And the first very senior commander, military commander conference happened on 6th of June. It was the first time a corps commander or 3-star level officer of ours and a major and general rank officer of their side. Otherwise, all these meetings used to be happening at colonel or brigadier or at best a major general level. So this was the first time this was broken. They sat across, and by and large an agreement was made that this needs to be dissolved. This problem needs to be sorted out. And the decision came that we will slowly disengage. Disengage means if you are sitting like this, we'll go apart. We don't want any, trigger happy guy to start a war. So understanding was reached that both of us will ensure that we'll try and put a land buffer between each other. And the first area which was targeted was Galwan. Now the problem with the Chinese felt, and it was basically, I think, a lower level problem. While we wanted them to go back to from where they came, they were trying to force us that if we go back 2 kilometers, you also go back 2 kilometers. Now the irony is, we claim this to be our land. You have come in. So you can't put the same yardstick to us. But they said it is our land. Because again, like I said, it's an ambiguous line. So there is no solution at lower levels. So despite an order having been passed to vacate a post, at some level, whoever was the commander, I'm sure he must have also thought कि मैं खुद तो छोड़ के जाता हूँ. So he left a small detachment of 4 boys and a tent, and thereafter refused to remove it. Whereas we had pulled back, he refused to remove it. And that is what was the crisis which happened in Galwan, where our guys went and tried to forcibly evict them from there, evicted them, and then they came back, and then there was a melee, unfortunate melee, wherein we lost Colonel Babu and about 32 boys. So it was a very sad incident. It shouldn't have happened. But then such things, that is why war is unpredictable. It was not supposed to flare up in the manner it did. But good sense prevailed after that. Both the countries decided that we should ensure that such things don't happen again. But what happened on 6th got nullified in what happened between 12th and 13th in Galwan. The trust which one had built on 6th, assuming that this trust will de-escalate the whole thing, got lost on when Galwan happened. And thereafter things just went south. Thereafter, for next 4 meetings, we found 14, 15-hour sittings and nothing getting resolved. They won't budge, neither can you yield. 2 meetings were held on their side, 2 meetings were held on our side. And possibly we felt that till such time we have something to bargain, this thing is not going to work. So till July, we kept attending all these meetings. At the same time, we were working on our options. And in this period of time, we still inducted some more forces from the hinterland. And what we did was, the relieving battalions were all inducted. Relieving units were all inducted. But units which were to be relieved were also held back. So at most places, double the amount of troops were available. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? There are 14 units.
Show of force. Show of force.
Show of force, yeah. Well, that he doesn't realize that they are relieving units. So 14 units or 15 units which were to go out continue to stay, and who were supposed to relieve him were already inducted. Double the number of troops. And by then we managed a method, and that was something which my branch worked overtime. We ran something like 30 special trains from all over the country. We created a huge amount of centers where COVID people could be kept for a period of time. People who were to be de-inducted were kept for a period of time to ensure that they are not coming.
Quarantine camps. Yeah.
I won't call it quarantine because they were not positives, but even if they were not positives, we held them back.
Right.
I'm telling you this
isolation thing. There is a word for it. I know.
You can call it isolation. So I moved a train from Kanyakumari all the way to Jammu via Bihar. Just crossed the entire, and because there was no other train running, they had the right of the way and they could move at whatever speeds. And in these trains, we also moved the relieving units. So they were also, on these kind of trains we could move. And we managed to get them to the airheads wherever we needed. The Air Force played a wonderful job. The C-17s worked overtime. What they used to do 1 sortie or 2 sorties a day became 4 to 5 sorties a day. So the guy used to go, unload, come back, load, unload, come back, load, unload, come back, things like that. All right. And all this happened in this period of a month, the month of June. And we were on pig's back. We knew now we are very we are having the upper hand. It is at that time, this thing was supposed to go in July, but we delayed it a bit. But one fine day, we launched what we call as the QPQ. I think I'll go on the slide, I'll explain it better. Okay, these were the three areas. These were three areas where friction happened. This is Galwan, this is Hot Spring, and this is the north of Pengong Tso. Galwan, I think enough is available on the internet. I will not get into the detail, but by and large, you should know this is the Galwan Nala which comes and joins the Shok. And this is generally the area where they have pitched the tent where this whole problem happened, which actually is a dominating point from where he can see our movement on our side. Now, this is what I was showing you. What you see, the line going through finger 4 is generally the line which Chinese claim as the line of control. And they had occupied areas east of it from fingers 6, 5, and 4. All this area had been occupied by them. And we were holding on to this area in the west. Our Adam base is somewhere here. Yeah. So this slide indicates this is where we were. This is where they were supposed to be, but they had claims till here and they came in this area. This is the area which many term as gray area. These are the kind of changes which happened. What was there on the 6th, what came up in 20th. So to say we were blind is wrong. We were keeping a tab of everything. This is something which is available in the net. We had much more photographs and inputs. And suitable countermeasures had been taken to ensure that they don't get a free run. Okay, this I'll visit later. Now, if you look at this particular slide, what you see on the north from Kurnak Fort up to finger 4, this is the area which they were refusing to vacate. And their biggest garrison is in this area called Moldo, which is astride the Spangurso Lake. And the area which falls out of the Spangur Lake coming into the Indian side is called the Spangur Gap. This is where there is a big gap between two mountain ranges. The one range ending at Camel's Back and the second range starting from here, the Kailash Range, which goes up to Rizangla. So this Spangur Gap is something which has been very critical for us because they can just roll down from here and come into our area of Chushul. They have done that in the 1962. This so-called, you must have seen that movie, 120 Bahadur. You're there, Mr. Iyer?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had muted myself because there was some noise. Sorry. Yeah. 120 Bahadur. Right.
Yeah, 120 Bahadur. The Rizangla story that happened in this area. Okay. Yeah. Can we have the slide again, please? Yeah. So when you see this area, they are very sensitive to this. And this satellite imagery on the right is showing a reverse picture of it. Imagine this is the area north of this area is, this side is seen here. And then it goes here to Camelback. This is this Spangur Gap. And then it turns left and goes up to Rizangla. So if you dominate this area, he will be in trouble. Just as we were in trouble north of Pengong. So what did we do? On the 9th of 29th, 30th, we went on these ridges and occupied all these places. Right up to Rizangla. This was a blitzkrieg led by armor. We had 4 armored regiments, 2 mechanized battalions, and a plethora of infantry which followed. And we went in lightning speed and held on to all of these areas. See, if you look at the map, you can start from Blacktop, Gurung Hill, Tabletop, Camel's Back, and then come this side, Magar Hill, Mukbari, further Rechinla, Rizangla, and we went further east to Anela and Kiala also. So if you look at it, we created a kind of We dominated the ball, and we told him that we are here, and if he doesn't, if things are to go south, we can go down the ridge and take over his entire garrison here, which would be very detrimental because, as far as he is concerned, whatever he could do here, we have been blocked already by our deployments on the other side. There was no way he could match us here. Another indication of the same. So this satellite imagery tells you what you would have seen from Gurung Hill. So you see all this, it's just, we had to just roll down 700 meters and we would have captured everything. All this area on top, you see some markings here. These are all Indian troops sitting here. And I must share with you, the night temperature in this area at that time, in the month of August, was minus 37 degrees.
Oh my God.
And there
That
was
is
no shelter.
centigrade.
Minus 37 centigrade, sir.
Wow.
Okay. There was no shelter here. Okay. So troops were, in whatever sangars they built, they were sitting there, in whatever tent age they were there. And this is from top of Mukbari. You can see these are the Chinese positions. You're sitting on top, you can throw stones at them. And this is a picture of Rezangla and Rechinla. This is Rechinla and this is Rezangla. You're dominating this complete area, whatever he has in the base here. So he tried to come up this slope and match us, and that is that story which is going around in the news today. I will not discuss beyond that. But we were in such strength here that he couldn't have even dare do anything beyond that. We knew that his march will stop well short of our troops, and it did. Because we were in such strength that if he had, tried to use force, possibly he would have been decimated. So this is one picture, very famous picture, which our tanks at Rechinla, and this is what he had across. And imagine I just showed you 700 meters down, and you would have run over his entire garrison. And this is our post with our boy standing here. This is the kind of infrastructure on which troops stayed for 6 to 8 months. I want to flag this because many people say, why did we come out of Rechinla and Rejangla? You can't stay here. In winters, it goes to minus 47 degrees. So you can well imagine here, you see 2 tanks of China and you see how much we have.
On Indian side, I see at least 6 or 7, sir.
There are more. There are more.
Oh yeah, on top there are more. Right. Yeah.
And this is Rezangla. And what you see on top of this feature here, on right on this ridge line, this is all us. Complete here. And what poor chap, he came up till here and he was wondering what to do. You think these people would have survived if they had opened fire? We were tactically deployed. You see the way our tank to tank distances are. And look at him, the way he bunched up.
Right.
So we could have knocked the hell out of these guys if they had, decided to go live. And we were very sure they won't. In fact, one of their senior colonels tried to come closer with the Gypsy. 3 warnings were given and then 1 shot was fired in the air and then he ran away. And that became a big issue because in the next 3 meetings, they used to start with that crib that, you opened fire. So that is how it is. Are we okay? This is another one. Now you were posting this. I also had this. I didn't want to show it. This is Chinese vehicles all lined up on the road. And we would have, been able to take them out one by one and knock them out there.
General Iyer, on the top right, beyond the last tank. If you blow up the line there, these are all sitting ducks afterwards.
They're all sitting ducks. That's why I'm trying to say 370 feet. What are they talking? And they were all downslope. This is the height.
Right.
This is the highest point. We are already on their side of the slope. Okay, this I'll use it later. Okay. You can come out of the presentation. So we did this, and thereafter we went into subsequent negotiations from a position of strength. And we realized that what we were doing in the month of April, May, asking them to go back. In the next 3 discussions, the Chinese were desperate that we go back. But we had decided that we'll go back only when all our ends are met. There was no clear this thing that you will not, any incursion that you have done, will go back. Our rule was very clear. We wanted to go to status quo ante, which meant that whatever was there before April 2020, wherever you were before April 2020, you will have to go back there. So this, from August to February, we held on to these positions. 8 months in this cold. And I remember one of the meetings, the February meetings, the Chinese guy who's a local there, so he's well known to people. So he was requesting, sir, please give me something. I want to give some good news for Chinese New Year. So let us close the deal now. Okay. So it was only in February, after all issues had been taken care of, wherein we were very clear that the complete finger area will be vacated. Galwan will be pushed back. All this got happened. We had a very clear answer for PP 15, 17 and 17 alpha also. But the problem over there was there was a difference in the perception of how far is how far. So where will that start point of that far be? So they were continuously insisting that their position should be the start point, and we were insisting that it should be where they were in April 2020. So another 3 to 4 months of negotiations happened, and then Gogra hot springs in that area also got cleared. The only area which remained outstanding after something like August of 2023 or 22 was Depsang. And in I think 24, even Bottleneck, which was held by them since 2013, that has also been now vacated. And now our troops are now patrolling, and this, I think, the MEA has given a statement in the parliament that our troops are now patrolling our old patrolling areas. A good thing that happened, and this is something which I want to flag. And I was fortunate that I saw through almost the complete crisis. I was there in Northern Command till May of 2022. I was possibly the longest serving general in the headquarters Northern Command. I went there in July 2018 and exited in May 2022. And exited as the Chief of Staff of Northern Command. So in this period, one saw a lot of changes. When I say a lot of changes, as a nation, we became stronger. Our resolve to stand up to a bully became even more stronger. And that is evident in the way we held our own in Op Sindoor. The army was not unleashed in Op Sindoor. It was only the long-range vectors. But you can see the resolve with which we approached Op Sindoor. All this are, benefits of what happened in this long standoff in our northern theatre. The second thing which became very clear is that we can't have ad hoc forces. So in the year 2021-22, a careful study was done and pragmatic rebalancing of the army was done, wherein every command, both Eastern, Central, and Northern Command, which faces the Chinese, they have been given now adequate reserves capable of undertaking QPQ kind of actions from within. So there is no need for troops to come from outside. Secondly, we found that our Air Force is capable of much, much more than what is given on paper. The versatility of our C-17s, the IL-76, despite being an old warhorse, continue to toil in this period. The C-130Js, they went to areas nobody even thought they could go to. Kind courtesy, this action, something which was getting a very bleak kind of importance. Now we have activated 2 airfields in the forward area. The Neoma airfield, you must know that has already got activated. The DBO was already active in the north. We have created capacities in Chushul from where heavy helicopters can operate. The kind of surveillance devices which have been made available, it ensures that such a exercise, if undertaken, will be totally in futility. And the amount of infrastructure we have developed, basically living areas far up and forward, we can hold a very large number of troops in well comforted, heated accommodation for a very long period of time. So these are some very big positives. Other positives are we were able to stand on our own. We didn't have to ask somebody to Big Brother to come and help. The complete event was taken care by us without having to do any saber rattling. So you must understand what I'm hinting at. And today we have equal quantity of long-range vectors. Our amount of mechanized forces in Ladakh is, if not equal, adequate to give our friend on the other side a bloody nose. We have enough air assets to take care of our requirements. And our command structure has been well defined and clarified. So today there is no ad hocism of somebody from other formations coming and looking after our offensive interests. We have our own inbuilt capacities. When I say we, means the theater. So whether it's the Northern Theater, the Eastern Theater, or the Central Theater, Central Command, all of them can handle their own requirements within their own resources. And there's adequate resources. Certain lessons which I would like to leave here. Our paramilitary needs a little more. I think I mentioned in the talk on Bangladesh the other day. You can't have two, chains. They have to be put as part of the system like the Chinese do, especially at least against the Chinese. So the ITBP has to be, merged into our system. And one more thing I forgot, one of the success story was we were able to send a full force headquarters of Rashtriya Rifles along with 2 sectors. And they added on to the force levels on top. And if I give you a word, we had almost twice the number of forces which the Chinese could bring at one time. And we were defending and they were supposed to be the aggressor. So there was no way they could have, I wish they had taken that leap of faith and tried an offensive action, we could have given them a bloody nose. Then they knew it, that's why they went back. The larger point we must understand is there's too much of politics. And that needs to be understood, that areas where there's no defined line, people should understand what is my land, what is their land. And this is somewhere I find loose statements coming around, both in social media and in the system, where people make statements and then get away with it. It actually affects the morale of the guy who's standing with a rifle on the post. And I showed you the photograph. That boy also sees his mobile once in a while, and he also feels hurt when people label things like blunder, mishap, and all those kind of things. We need to trust our forces. I'm sure, having been out of the forces now for 2 years, the forces are stronger than what I left the forces with. The Indian Army, we are blessed to have an armed force like we have, totally apolitical armed force. And we should all hold hands. And that is where I find a little, I will say, upset and broken-hearted by the way some degree of politics is played on national security issues, which needs to be, curbed, if I was to use a term for it. I guess I met your requirement, and if there are any questions, with the caveat that please don't bring the politics into it, I will be constrained not to take on that question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, we think we have filtered the questions, but if anything looks like it's going to go outside of the scope, please feel free to skip it. First question, KSID09, sir, how would you characterize from a professional military standpoint the single most decisive operational decision taken by the Indian Army during the 2020 Ladakh standoff that, in your assessment, most influenced China's calculus, and what were the key indicators available to you at the time that this decision was achieving its intended effect without triggering uncontrolled escalation? KSID, do you watch Yes Minister?
So, yeah. So, firstly, this was the first time we were able to show offensive intent. So, when I say offensive intent, so whether it was defense of your post in Galwan or whether it was defense of your post in Gogra and Hot Springs, where our troops stood their ground despite not having favorable ground on where they were standing. When I say favorable ground, means there were places where the Chinese had dominance, but we still stood our ground. So the morale of our soldiers actually encouraged the command to take certain out-of-the-box kind of decisions. We have been hearing in my service life, throughout my service life, I've been hearing about the Nathula action of 1967. You must have all heard about it. One read about it and one was wondering when will we see something of that nature. So when the tanks rolled on 29th, in fact, let me be very frank, I was not in the operations branch, I was in the logistics branch. My job was to ensure that the things reach where they have to be applied. So I had knowledge only of what I have told you, inducting people. How they moved from there, and I also came to know about 8 o'clock in the morning when I got my morning reports that, last night we have done this. And believe you me, I stood up from my chair and clapped because it gave me a kind of sense of pride that we have done this. And I immediately walked up to the army commander and he was smiling at me. He said, "Did you know about it?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "That means the security was good." So that is the degree of security with which this operation was done. And this was, in my mind, the turning point. And it will stay the turning point for many, many years to come. Much like the Uri surgical strike becomes the turning point for, our tolerance to terror. The QPQ which we did, where, let me tell you, every tank was loaded with ammunition, every rifle was loaded with magazine, every magazine was loaded. It was not that they were going without anything. They were not going with, crowbars and what sticks and nails tied to the sticks. No, here we went operational. We were ready, and should there have been repercussion, we were ready to face it. So it was a very big difference in the way things are moved after that. And without firing a single shot, we were able to achieve what many armies don't achieve even fighting wars over the years. And let me tell you, China is the second largest army today in the world. So for us to stand up to him and ensure that we achieve our aims, that was the most influenced period for me.
Next one, please. This was done. Hold on. Naresh wants to know, why are we so carefree on our borders and not fenced till recently in all neighboring nations? Have we taken a standoff against all neighbors only recently?
Firstly, good neighbors don't fence borders. That is basic. Worldwide, borders are never fenced, they are marked. And once they are marked, they are universally accepted as the land. And if you violate it, then you have to pay repercussions. So to have fenced border means, it's like putting yourself inside jail. Why should you do it? That is point one. But if you have irresponsible neighbors like we have on our eastern and western fringes, I myself advocated, fencing of the Bangladesh border just a couple of days back. We have no other options but to fence the border. But please remember, fencing the border doesn't mean everything is okay. A guy can jump the fence and come. He can break the fence and come. And we don't have the capacity to patrol every inch of the fence. Huge border lines. So there are problems, but then we are in the world of electronic dominance. So we have surveillance by means of remote surveillance, both using audible and visual weights. Keep them under surveillance. I must tell you, in Depsang we have a place where we have a camera. It is called Jai Fort or something. So in my morning report every day I used to get, sir, yesterday 44 vehicles crossed. So this poor chap is sitting on a camera at night and counting the lights which cross it. Okay, so they are tiring things, very tiring things, and there's no solution. Even the Americans don't have solutions for it. Chinese don't have solutions for it. And as far as China is concerned, I think I started by saying that we can fence a border which is demarcated. With China, unfortunately, other than some areas in Sikkim, the border with China is unresolved right from the east, Madan Post in the east, right up to Karakoram Post in the west. We are working on a line, and these lines are also not demarcated. So somebody picked up a point of a map, how accurate it is, what is your GPS today showing? There are errors. There have been many times when we have crossed because the map coordinates and the GPS coordinates, there are errors. So it's very difficult, and again, fencing, like I said, is not a solution.
Abraham J wants to know why China wants Tawang from India in return for land concession in Aksai Chin.
Firstly, Aksai Chin will never come back to you. Let's be very clear, because Aksai Chin is the connect to Xinjiang. So their highway runs through it, so it's never going to come to us. So all this talk about, we'll give you that, you give us this. It's a bogey which he throws, and he knows that you will never accept it. So it is like a bogey which has been thrown. Secondly, Tawang is also known as South Tibet. And China considers it as its unfinished business of annexing Tibet, because it is the home of the Lamas. So they feel that Tawang is the place which influences the Tibetans, and therefore they need to have that under control. And having said that, I can tell you the way we are now defending Tawang. China, if he even puts his entire might, he will come nowhere close. So 1962, if anybody thinks that can be repeated, he is living in fool's world. There is no way he can come anywhere close to even 50 miles around Tawang. And if he does come there, he is not going back. He is going to be slaughtered there only. So these are areas which are non-negotiable, and we have enough defense to protect it. And again, I say it's not a barter between them and that. Yeah.
Exercise Vidyut Vidvans, taking forward, sir, thoughts?
I don't know. I didn't follow this exercise, so I can't really comment on it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Big Texan. Next one, sir. Last question. Big Texan wants to know, did ever India defend the Aksai Chin area up to the Kunlun range prior to 1962?
I think we used to send our patrols to Haji Langar in the 50s. But you remember, firstly, the Chinese weren't there at that time. The Chinese came into those areas only in the later part of 50s when they annexed Tibet. All this trouble started when Dalai Lama was herded out of China. So possibly at that time it was a highway, anybody could go till anywhere. The second point we must understand is we had one division in Srinagar which was looking after this whole area. Imagine today with the corps sitting at Leh, we are not able to manage that area. So it depends on how the adversary comes there. Today the adversary has also got numbers. We are also not too bad in that sense. We have also got numbers. So in that light, I must show this. I guess people see these two banners behind me. This was a unique achievement we did when we moved the K9 Vajra guns across Jozila Pass in terrain which nobody would have believed that it could have gone across. And we moved them at night, and this was my team which took it there, and it's a proud moment for me. That's why I display it in my house.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice, sir. Romanchak, it feels so nice to see all these things. Well, what a session. Viewers, I hope you can share this thing. If you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. General Iyer spent a fair amount of time putting together all these things, as you can see. We were not even sure we were going to be able to do this thing tonight, but luckily all stars lined up and he was ready, and we did this. So please, a small word of encouragement by way of comments to tell us what you thought of this presentation. All the information is available in public domain. And this is something that has been, these have been available in bits and pieces everywhere. So there is nothing here that should, make somebody say, oh, well, there is something being given out. Nothing like that. Thank you so much, General Iyer. And I know how careful you are with your words.
Show the last two slides.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. This is what our army commander said. And this is what his thoughts were. So I think Sid's answer comes in this particular slide. And finally, this is where we are. So since October 2024, by and large, the problems has been solved. However, you can get out of the slide. The operation is still not over. The operation is still not over because there is one bit of issue which still lingers on, because both sides have mobilized a very large volume of troops. And nobody wants to be the first one to move out, because both sides are worried that if I move out, it'll open a window for the other guy to, it's something like two boxers, both not willing to box, but both not willing to leave the ring. Now the whole thing decides as to who will leave first and who will go where. These are two issues which are still contentious, because the Chinese, because they are on the plateau, they don't have a problem. They have well laid out roads and rail networks. They can reach these areas much faster than us. So India is insisting that we should take time as a parameter for shifting these forces. The distance between the forces moved back should be measured in time, whereas China is insisting that it should be measured in distance. So this standoff still continues, and we do this, though we have disengaged, which means we have gone back to where we were in April 2020. But the build-up of troops which we have done, by and large, though we have thinned out to some extent, but a fair number of troops, and keeping troops in these kind of areas is not easy ball game. So it is very expensive in terms of troops, because these are very difficult areas to be in. So we are also very keen that this de-escalation happens soon. I hope that in the coming year, that is this year, we are able to negotiate that aspect. My own unit is sitting there, and I hope that they don't spend another winter. This winter they already spent in the cold over there. I hope by the time next winter comes, the de-escalation happens and we get back to where we were properly in April 2020. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And viewers, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And please don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.